Hello, this is Susan from Propagate, and I'm going to talk to you about my outdoor growing tomato experiences. So I have some tomato plants here that I have already picked all the tomatoes off because they started to develop blight. Now, if you have a look here, you can see like relatively healthy tomato foliage, but what you can see here is blight. And there's some others that have like the brown marks, so that's late blight. So once you've got that, that's basically the end for the growing of your tomatoes. Okay, so you've seen the tomato plants with blight, and now you can see the tomatoes. Okay, so in an ideal world, this is what your tomatoes should look like. They're nice and ripe, they don't have blight, lovely. In a less ideal world, this is what tomatoes with blight will end up looking like. Now, blight is actually, it's a type of fungal-like organism. It's actually called a water mold, and it affects tomatoes and potatoes. And it was actually the root cause of the Irish potato famine and the Highland potato famine, although of course it was exacerbated by political conditions, which meant that people were basically living off potatoes. But anyway, so this is what happens when they get blight. Now, it's not actually dangerous to eat, although obviously it's rotten and it wouldn't taste nice. So once your plants get that, there's not much more you can't really get rid of it. However, what you can do if you start to developing is pickle tomatoes. Now, as you can see, although these kind of look pretty, the variety of colours, obviously the green ones and even the yellow and orange ones are not fully ripe. So if they didn't have any sign of blight, I would probably attempt to ripen the green tomatoes by putting them on a sunny windowsill or putting them in a paper bag or a drawer with a banana, because the gases that ripe bananas give off will help to ripen the tomatoes. However, because there's blight on the plants, I'm not going to attempt to do that, because it's quite likely that a lot of these green tomatoes, although they don't look blight damaged at this point, if they were to be left for a few more days, it'll happen quite quickly. They'll probably end up like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use them as green tomatoes, and I'll show you how in just a second. Okay, so we're going to make fried green tomatoes. I think this is a popular dish in like the southern parts of America, and I think they would usually use corn flour, but I'm going to use gram flour, so a slightly more kind of Asian inspired recipe. So I've got some gram flour in a bowl. The quantity that you would need would depend on the quantity of tomatoes that you have, clearly. And I'm also going to add in a few things, just for extra nutritional value. I'm going to add in some chia seeds, just a few, sprinkle of paprika, and some cumin. I'm also going to put in a little bit of salt, not too much. I'm going to roughly mix that in, and then I'm going to start adding water and gradually stirring until I have a batter. Okay, I'm now going to cook the tomatoes. So I've got some butter melting here, and I've got the batter, and I'm going to start slicing the tomatoes. Just kind of thick segments, throw them into the batter. I'll throw in a few red ones for good measure. Okay, mix them in the batter. Slotted spoon with little holes. Fish them out and throw them into the pan. Ooh, hot, surprisingly enough. Throw them into the pan. I had that on a hot heat, and I'm realising now it needs to be slightly lower. So I would say once you've got that cooking, you probably want it on like a medium heat. And if you were here, you would be able to tell that they smell very nice now. So I think I need to be doing this. I probably should have chopped my tomatoes before I started doing this, because I'm not quite fast enough here. But you get the idea. Okay, here we are with the finished product and the taste test. What do we think?
Delicious.
What do you think, Iona?
Delicious.
Yeah? What does Grandma think?
Tasty.
Okay. Well, there we go. Does it get a thumbs up? Green tomatoes, everyone.